You're not weak. You're just trapped in a cycle where every decision feels like a life or death verdict on your worth. So you freeze, delay, and rehearse the perfect moment that never comes. How many times have you held back from speaking up, from launching that project, from making the move, not because you lacked the skill, but because you couldn't survive the thought of failing in front of others? Here's the truth that cuts through all the noise. Fear doesn't disappear when you get braver. It disappears when you accept the worst outcome and move anyway. In this video, you'll learn an ancient principle that helped warriors face death with calm eyes, and how you can use it today to stop living as a hostage to your own reputation. If someone filmed your week, would they see someone taking deliberate action, or someone endlessly preparing, researching, and waiting for certainty that will never arrive? By the end of this, you'll have a simple method to reclaim your decision-making power and act even when your hands are shaking. But first, let me tell you about a lesson carved into history by those who understood something most modern people refuse to see. There was a young warrior who trained every morning before dawn. He practiced the blade until his arms burned, studied strategy until his eyes blurred, and meditated on honor until he could recite every principle by heart. His skill was undeniable. His discipline impressed even the senior masters. But when the call came to stand on the front line, he hesitated, not from lack of preparation, from the weight of his own image. He had built himself into someone formidable in the safety of the training hall, where every strike was controlled and every outcome rehearsed. The idea of stepping into real chaos, where one mistake could shatter the reputation he had spent years constructing, paralyzed him. Days turned into weeks. Other warriors, less skilled but more willing, took the positions he had dreamed of. They made mistakes. They bled. They learned. And while they grew through action, he remained in the cold morning silence, sharpening a blade that would never taste a field. The masters noticed, not his skill, his absence. One elder finally spoke to him after training, voice low and unbothered. "You fight the wrong enemy. You fear the loss of something you never truly owned." This isn't just a story about ancient warriors. This is about you, right now, holding back from the opportunity in front of you because the thought of public failure feels unbearable. You tell yourself you need more time, more proof, more preparation. But the real block isn't readiness. It's a silent terror being seen as someone who tried and didn't succeed. Your brain is wired to protect your social standing. Thousands of years ago, being cast out of the tribe meant death. So your nervous system treats professional rejection, public mistakes, or visible failure as existential threats. That's why you can know exactly what to do and still not do it. That's why you rehearse the pitch 50 times but never send the email. That's why you plan the business, outline the book, map the career shift, and yet the starting line keeps moving further away. How long have you been getting ready for something you could have started months ago? How many decisions have you avoided because you couldn't guarantee the outcome? This isn't lack of ability. This is a pattern. And the pattern has a name: ego protection. Your mind would rather keep you small and safe than risk the story you tell yourself about who you are. The ancient text spoke of a principle that modern comfort has buried. A master once taught that the way of the warrior required one thing above all else: to carry yourself as if you were already dead. Not morbid, not nihilistic, but free. When you meditate on your death, when you truly accept that your reputation, your image, your carefully constructed identity will all dissolve, something shifts. The fear that holds you hostage loses its grip. You stop asking what will people think and start asking, what is the right action? The principle is simple. Every morning, see yourself as someone who has already lost everything. Your status, your perfect record, your flawless image, all gone. Now, from that place, what do? You move, you decide, you act, because there's nothing left to protect. This is not about recklessness. It's about clarity. When you stop clinging to the illusion of control over how others see you, you reclaim the only thing that actually matters: your willingness to show up and try. The blade isn't sharpened by avoiding the stone. It's sharpened by friction, by contact, by repeated pressure that wears away what doesn't belong. Architected practical framework emphasizing small, consistent actions over motivation. The method isn't complex. but it requires you to give up the fantasy of the heroic breakthrough and accept the power of the unglamorous repetition. Here's how you apply this. You start by choosing one action so small that even on your worst day, even when the fear is loudest, you can still do it. Not the full launch, not the perfect presentation, not the complete transformation, just the smallest possible step that moves you toward the thing you've been avoiding. This could be writing 3 sentences, making 1 call, posting 1 imperfect update, sending 1 email without overthinking. The size matters because your brain will resist anything that feels like a threat to your image. But something this small slips under the radar. It doesn't trigger the alarm. It doesn't summon the committee of doubts. You just do it before your mind has time to build a case against it. Next, you attach this action to a fixed point in your day. Not when I feel ready. Not when inspiration strikes. A specific time or trigger that doesn't require decision-making. Right after your morning coffee, before you check your phone, after lunch, during the commute. The repetition at the same point builds a groove in your routine, and that groove becomes stronger than motivation. Motivation is weather. It comes and goes. Commitment is architecture. It stands regardless of how you feel. Finally, you follow the rule of continuity. You don't break the chain. If you miss a day, you don't spiral into guilt or abandon the whole thing. You simply return the next day and continue. The power isn't in perfection. It's in the refusal to disappear. Think of a stone being polished. Each pass of the cloth does almost nothing, but 1,000 passes transform the surface. Each small action is a pass. You're not trying to become fearless overnight. You're training yourself to act in the presence of fear. That's the difference between someone who waits for courage and someone who builds it. The warrior doesn't wait until the battlefield feels safe. The warrior shows up even when the hands shake, because showing up is a practice. And over time, the shaking becomes familiar. It stops being a signal to retreat. It becomes proof that you're doing something real. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. There was someone, a regular person with a regular job, who spent 2 years talking about starting a side project. They had the idea. They had the skills. They had the plan mapped out in detail. But every time they sat down to begin, the voice came. What if it's not good enough? What if people laugh? What if I put myself out there and it goes nowhere? So they researched more. They refined the plan. They waited for the right moment. Then they heard this principle. They decided to try the smallest possible version. Every morning, right after breakfast, they would work on the project for 10 minutes. Not an hour. Not until it felt complete. 10 minutes. No exceptions. The first few days felt awkward. The work wasn't impressive. The output was rough. But they kept the chain going. On day 12, they had a terrible day at work. Exhausted. Frustrated. The last thing they wanted to do was touch the project. But they sat down and did the 10 minutes anyway. Badly. Slowly. But they did it. That was the turning point. Not because the work was good, because they proved to themselves that they could show up even when everything in them resisted. Weeks turned into months. The 10 minutes started generating momentum. Some days, they kept going past the minimum. Other days, they stopped right at 10. But the project moved forward. 6 months later, they launched. It wasn't perfect. Some people didn't care. A few people criticized. But none of that mattered because they had already faced the thing they feared most, being visible and imperfect. And they survived, more than survived. They grew. The change didn't come from a surge of confidence. It came from the daily decision to act despite the fear. So here's what I need you to do. Right after you finish watching this, choose one small action related to the thing you've been avoiding. Just one. Something you can do in under 5 minutes. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't build it into a plan. Do it now. Create the first tiny proof that you can move even when the fear is present. And if you found this helpful, if this shifted something in how you see your own hesitation, do me a favor. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling me, what's the one small step you're taking today? I read every single one, and your action might be the reminder someone else needs to start their own chain. Here's what you need to burn into your mind. Preparation without practice is just procrastination dressed in discipline. You will never feel fully ready. That's not how growth works. Action creates energy. Sitting in fear drains it. The difference between someone who changes their life and someone who stays stuck isn't talent or luck. It's the willingness to be seen trying, to be seen failing, to be seen imperfect. Consistency doesn't mean you never fall. It means you refuse to stay down. The young warrior finally understood what the master meant. He had been fighting the wrong enemy. He wasn't protecting himself from failure. He was protecting an illusion, an image of who he thought he needed to be to deserve respect. But respect doesn't come from perfection. It comes from showing up again and again, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. He stopped meditating on his flawless reputation and started meditating on his inevitable end. And in that acceptance, he found freedom, not the freedom from fear, the freedom to act in spite of it. He walked onto the field. His hands still shook, his breath still caught, but he moved. And in that movement, he became what he had been preparing for all along. Not someone who never feels afraid, someone who acts anyway. Now it's your turn. Open the document, write the first sentence, send a message, record the rough draft, make the call. One action, right now, not perfect, just real. And if this resonated with you, share it with someone who's been stuck in the same place. Sometimes all we need is permission to start badly.